exciting.
We can go ahead and get started then.
Good afternoon. Notice of a public meeting of the City Commission of the City of Brownsville. Pursuant to Chapter 551, Title 5 of the Texas Government Code, the Texas Open Meetings Act, notice is hereby given that the City Commission of the City of Brownsville, Texas, in accordance with Article 5, Section 12 of the Charter of said city, will convene a regular meeting on December the 6th, 2022 at 5 p.m. in the City Commission chambers located on the second floor of the Brownsville City Hall Old Federal Building located at 1001 East Elizabeth Street, Brownsville, Texas. Members of the public who submitted a public comment form will be permitted to offer public comments as provided by the agenda and as permitted by the presiding officer during the meeting. A recording of the meeting will be made and will be available to the public in accordance with the Open Meetings Act. Mayor, it is 5:02. You may call the meeting to order.
All right, thank you. Welcome, everyone. Call the meeting to order.
Next item is invocation.
Let's all stand as we go to the Lord in prayer. Father God, we thank you for your love, your grace, and your mercy. And Lord, this time of year, help us to remember what the season is all about. That we celebrate the birth of your Son, our Lord Jesus Christ. Lord, when we see the Christmas trees, help us to remember the purpose that you came here to earth in the first place was to take our sin on that cross. Being a wooden cross, Lord. Lord, when we see the lights on the tree, help us to remember that you are the light of the world. When we see that it's an evergreen tree, help us to remember that your purpose was to give us eternal life when we truly repent and come to you. And Lord God, I ask you to bring us back to your word, back to obedience to you, so we can receive the discernment we need for the trying times ahead. And Lord, for this meeting here today, we ask you to lead and guide our mayor, our city commissioners, and everyone who speaks, Lord, for the very best for the city of Brownsville, and bring us into unity around you in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. And Lord, now we have a short time of silence where we can all add our prayers to what has already been spoken. Amen.
Thank you. Now the pledge.
States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under the text of Jesus, one state, under God, one and
Next item, we have public comment. The first public comment, Susan Rubalcaba.
Hello, welcome. Just please tell us your name and you'll have 3 minutes.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. My name is Susan Rubalcaba. Exactly 2 months ago, the Tenasca report was released by this commission. As a result, we found under the current CEO, current and/or past executive management team, current and/or past commission members, current and/or past PUB members, and past mayor, that the people of Brownsville were lied to and stolen from. Approximately $135 million taken from the city with the poorest citizens. We also found out that the commission has a disturbing lack of control and oversight of PUB operations, lack of oversight with budgets, hiring, firing, salaries, raises, and purchases, and a lack of control over board members. The commission revived the Charter Review Committee to immediately, diligently, and swiftly begin the charter amendments to address these shortfalls so that it could be included in the 2023 May election cycle. The citizens heard it loud and clear, yet after 4 meetings, we have made little to no progress. I stated before that the Charter Committee meetings look like a bad tennis match, with ideas and personal opinions flying back and forth, but no one scoring any real points. The committee is tippy-toeing around PUB. Let's be clear. The bond rating that PUB is so worried about should be the least of their concerns. The people are irate, and every day that there is no progress to the reimbursement of our money, the charter amendment and personnel disciplinary actions is every day that we the people get closer to seeking legal intervention. Each and every one of you appointed one of these members. Maybe you should meet with them and review the expectations. They are making it so much more difficult than it really is. They should be prioritizing the amendments of the board appointments, board removals, CEO and executive team, salary and raises, and budget review in that order. At the end of the day, the commission, did I turn it off? Or can you still hear me? Okay. At the end of the day, the commission must take a more aggressive approach into rectifying the mistakes made by PUB. We all understand that disbanding PUB probably wouldn't be in the best interest of the city, but as it is now, the question remains, is PUB really serving the people better? Or are they running it as a personal enterprise for their purpose of self-serving? As of today, what do we have? We have an implicated CEO on day 50 of his 60-day paid vacation with no update from the current board as to what will be happening on December 16th, 2022 with John Brusiak. We have no update on the payback of any of the Tenaska funds, 29 million from PUB and the 11 million from the city. We have no board member removal placed on the agenda for vote, even as the conflict of interest is screaming in the background, and no progress on charter amendments. The people are losing hope and losing faith. So get on the phone, schedule some meetings, and with all due respect, for God's sake, stop focusing on getting some Guinness Book of World Records for the most pledges for a pet vaccination in 24 hours. I would much rather be nationally recognized for the most potholes fixed in 24-hour period. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next one, we have Erasmo Castro.
Hello, sir. Welcome. You'll have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mayor. Erasmo Castro, and thank you all so much for giving us this opportunity to be here tonight. And let me say that one of the things that I think that a lot of individuals are getting ready for, something that I think that even y'all are getting ready for, is for the Christmas holidays. I see some of y'all dressed in awesome gear, and that's pretty cool. A lot of folks here in the city of Brownsville are having a little tougher time with Christmas than others here in the city of Brownsville. And our concerns continue to be the same. I think a lot of us feel that the wheels are turning too slowly in regards to a lot of the things that we had already come before you to request. Some of the things that we come up to request are very, very basic and very, very simple. Simple in the sense that they make sense. A lot of them had to do, we were hoping that we would be able to get more resources for the citizens of Brownsville during these tough times because of the situations that have transpired because of the excessive utility bills. And some of the bills that have come in, have decreased a little bit, but not significantly enough to cause a major impact for a lot of the folks here in the city of Brownsville. I think that people appreciate that there are going to be no disconnections and no late fees charged. I actually had a conversation with individuals from PUB this week, and they made mention of it. I think that there's still some tweaking that needs to be done in regards to paying the bills at PUB. I think we had spoken with the mayor and with Commissioner de los Santos in regards to maybe upgrading the app so that people could pay more than $500. Because you can't pay more than $500 on the app, and a lot of our bills are coming out to be more excessive than the $500 amount. So the little things, but I hope that you take into consideration, during this time, especially during this time, that we're still looking for the resources, and we have seen some that have been placed up by PUB, and they do recommend other resources out there, but they won't come in time for a lot of folks and a lot of individuals here in the city of Brownsville will not have a great Christmas. We know that the CRC was started. We've followed some of their meetings. We probably haven't attended as many as we'd like to. We don't feel that the progress there, and maybe we'll get a little bit more information now that the chair of the CRC committee is here. Maybe we'll get a little bit more information in regards to the progress or the next steps. But we've seen some of the meetings, and we just don't feel that maybe they're getting it. They're not understanding the reason why they were asked to come together, and we are not seeing that progress. We don't know if there's other reports that have been shared with you all in regards. We hope that you do is they keep their feet to the fire, and that the reason why they were brought, is to affect the change that we're all hoping. And have a great holidays, and thank y'all.
Thank you.
Next item, we have work sessions. Item number 1, depository services evaluation criteria, work session.
Good evening, everyone. Honorable Mayor, City Commission. My name is Tania Lopez. I'm the Accountant 3 that oversees the Treasury Division. And today I'm going to be talking about the depository services for the City of Brownsville. Based on feedback received from the City Commission regarding the public funds depository services for the City of Brownsville, the following proposal is being presented for any additional feedback. Part of the feedback that we received from City Commission was to give opportunity to all respondents to submit the best and final offer along with the software presentation, local presence in the customer support, and the opportunity to explain the interest programs. We're going to be looking the following items, which is the purpose of the depository services, the previous criteria, the proposed criteria breakdown, and the improvements on our request for proposal. The purpose. Why are we seeking new depository services? The city intends to minimize banking costs, improve operational efficiency, maximize its investments capabilities, and in accordance to the local government code, a municipality may approve, execute, and deliver any depository services contract whose term does not exceed 5 years. As you are aware, we have met the 5-year with our current depository bank, which is PNC. So this is why we're starting this new request for proposal. This is the previous evaluation criteria and how it was scoring. And this is the proposed criteria breakdown with the banking services fees at 30 points, which is unit price based on volume of transactions, and any additional discounts and or waiver of fees will be taken into consideration. Interest earnings, 30 points. Candidates must supply a rate quote for interest-bearing accounts, and an alternative interest earning method will be taken into consideration. Banking services capabilities, 25 points. Safety of city funds and securities, efficient utilization of banking services. An example will be for the safety, the positive pay on the checks and the ACH with dual authorization, and on the efficient utilization will be that the bank should be able to provide us enough reports for us to submit it for our auditors. And the safety and credit worthiness of bank, 15 points. Experience of the financial institution in providing similar services for other public clients. Proposed timeline for implementation of the contract, including activities and responsibilities of the city and the bank, and the description of institution disaster recovery plan. This is our improved request for proposal process. Number 1 and 2, it's going to stay the same. On number 3, after reviewing all proposals, all vendors are requested to submit their best and final offers along with presentation of the services. The scoring will be done after the presentation. And on number 4, selection of depository, after scoring, all results will be submitted to the City Commission for decision. Thank you very much. Any questions?
I do have a comment, and I know that Mr. Flores brought this to our attention last time, that there are some things that we need to comply with statutorily. So I just want to make sure that whatever it is we have to comply with, we do that for the next time.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Next work session, we have presentation and update by the chair and or vice chair of the Charter Review Committee.
Honorable Mayor, City Commission, Evaristo Cárdenas, with your CRC. It has been put to us, our task is to come and amend some of the charter amendments on PUB, when it pertains to PUB. That was our task. At our first meeting, when it was presented to us, our question was, why? Why are we amending anything in the charter which has worked since its inception? Our dialogue between our committee is open because we discuss many areas of our city or of the PUB charter. We're coming to, as you can see, what's on your screen. This is dialogue by email of topics that we all consider that are, I don't want to, that could change the charter, and it may be essential, but we're also having discussions with those that are involved in areas of the charter to where we don't want to start a ripple effect if we change one item or amend an item on the charter, that it may start a ripple effect and the bond issues may become a process, or later in a process that it may change. Or if we change another item on the amendment, that the percentage that the city gets from PUB may be lowered. So as we are still ongoing and having meetings with different aspects of people from PUB, to be sure that we don't get ourselves into a situation where if we amend something on a charter, that later we're not going to be paying for it. We are looking at making the process of putting someone on the board of PUB by a supermajority, and or having the qualifications changed to be sure that if within the qualifications, the supermajority may say that, you know what, this is a great person, but they don't meet the standards that have been in the, or in the criteria of becoming a PUB board member. There's other areas that we've looked at that we're still in the process of looking at. We have a meeting tomorrow with PUB again to be sure that by the time that we present it to y'all of the amended areas, that we are sure that it's not going to start a ripple effect onto other charters that are in the PUB, because we don't want to change something and then later pay for it.
And Vito, if you can just really quickly go back to that first chart. If somebody doesn't have any X's, does that mean that they don't have
Well,
it?
most of the dialogue was done within the meetings, and then for those that came up with other dialogues after the meetings, we submitted to our attorney for him to review and put it down, while as soon as he comes back to our next meeting, he'll have it down and we will review it again. That's where we're at. This is what that stipulates, the removal of board members. We've discussed that. I believe at the moment, it's one board member per year that can be removed for cause. The question there is, what's the definition of cause?
Well, I think that's a real slippery issue, and I don't think y'all really need to try and define cause. And you definitely don't want to put cause into what the voters are going to be looking at. It's only going to confuse things even more. I think cause is something to be opined on by lawyers or courts at some other point.
And that's what, where we stand at the moment is, what is cause? You know, is it ethics? Is it, you know, we're still in the determination of the wording, what is on the charter review for the PUB. The thing that they didn't want, I guess when it was written, is chaos, to be able to remove a PUB board member at will. That, you know, let's say in case that some one of you appointed one and let's say 3 months later, y'all had a fallout and then you just said, you know what, let's remove them.
Right,
Because-
and I think actually the way it is now, the opposite is true to where it's almost like they're so insulated, they'll never be removed because it requires a unanimous vote from everybody.
Exactly.
And it doesn't even provide for any abstentions or anything like that. So I think I mean, what I would be concerned about is y'all just trying to look at it as an overcorrection. Just be reasonable about it because really, if you do something like a supermajority, you kind of take the ability of somebody to politicize it out.
Exactly.
Because, I mean, unless the whole entire commission politicizes it, but otherwise, I think it's reasonable to consider something like that.
So I have a question. I find your graph a little confusing. First
Yes.
of all, I find confusing that you said your task is for a charter review specifically regarding the PUB. Is that what we voted on? I thought it was the charter.
No,
review
it's been explained that they have three buckets. One is amendments to Article 6 of the charter, which covers PUB. The other is any kind of technical cleanups that we need to be done, recommended by city attorney or city manager. And then the last bucket is any other items that need to be, tweaked for the betterment of the city.
So they could make recommendations for any area of the charter, correct?
That's correct.
Right.
But the CRC has taken a priority in addressing Article 6 first.
So it's important that your group understands you don't exist just for the PUB, you exist for the entire charter.
Right, correct.
And your graph had so many blanks in particular people's names, that implies they're not participating, they're not attending, they.
Well, no, everyone's in attendance.
So then I don't understand the X's.
The X's are the emails that were sent in to the attorney.
I can,
Uh,
I can probably explain that, Commissioner. So what we did is we received just information from the previous meetings, but also we asked the directors that if after the meetings, they had additional suggestions for them to be submitted to the city attorney's office. Then we put those into a graph and we marked which ones were suggested by which director so that they could have a tool to see where some kind of consensus was and to which they had a discussion at the last meeting about. Ms. Zamora and Mr. Gonzalez before the last meeting had actually recommended that no changes be made to the charter, to Article 6. I mean, for the reason that there was an article released by Fitch Ratings that said that the bond rating was reduced as a result of certain uncertainties within PUB. And so that's why they didn't submit any by that meeting. But at that meeting, they actually had a discussion with the city's financial advisor to explain the interaction between any changes to Article 6 or the charter and its relation to bond ratings. So that's why there's, not that they didn't recommend anything, but they haven't recommended anything at this time.
And just for clarity, council, the CRC is going to be bringing us their recommendations, but ultimately it's city approved. If the city
Correct.
wants, if we want to change anything, we can, right?
That's correct.
Correct.
And one more question with regard to these X's, because I think they're a little vague, because I don't think when we're talking, just like the first one, appointment of board members, and we've got X's by 3 of those names, does that mean all 3 of those agree 100% on what appointment of board members is going to look like? Or is that just that each of them gave some type of feedback on appointment of board members?
So that reflects that each one of them wanted to change the regulations around appointment of board members. Then you have, it breaks it down to simple majority, super majority. And so, for example, Mr. Coscos said either or, right? This was just as what they submitted and what they recommended. It wasn't that there was any vote. It was just a point of, it says topics on top. It's topics that they wanted to discuss.
Right, and then the way I understand it, for example, on Coscos's X is there, I guess he's suggesting that the board members actually meet certain qualifications such as being a PE, a CPA, attorney, have a degree,
That's correct.
background check, et cetera.
That's correct.
Yeah, Vito, I would just caution, I mean, just
Yeah.
keep in mind, obviously, that whatever y'all recommend, we can always change,
Exactly.
but more so, keep in mind, I think that ultimately the most important thing here is that whatever either comes from your recommendation or our ultimate approval is that voters are going to be looking at it. They have to understand it. It has to make sense.
Exactly.
And ultimately, they're going to be the ones that are voting on it and approving it.
And that's what we want to simplify because we don't want 7 different amendments to 7 different areas of
Right.
the charter that half the time no one looks at it and either leaves it blank or just votes for it or against it.
Right, and I did watch the last meeting remotely, and there was a lot of discussion, obviously, but I think what was getting lost in there is that, I mean, it was almost like overthinking it, really even
Right.
going into the weeds on cause. And that's, I mean, just really try and use your time as efficient as possible and really come up with things.
Yeah.
that
And that's
voters
why
are
we
gonna
had
be able
Mr.
to look-
Hinojosa with us because we don't want, like I said, we don't want to start a ripple effect that later down the road, it affects the city of Brownsville through PUB.
Right, I understand that, but also,
Especially the funding and that PUB gets from the city, it's something that we're treading lightly to be sure that we have it right when we present everything that's going to appear before y'all for your vote.
no, and I
to be on
appreciate
the
all your
ballot.
work and I appreciate all the time y'all are putting into it. All right, I'm sorry to, go ahead, keep going. Any other comments?
Nerith, your microphone.
Thank you. So Gerardo Martinez, David Merrill, and Thomas Tijerina, they had some concerns about appointment of board members, but then there's no other X's. So what is it about the appointment of board members that they would like to see changed?
But what it is
Sorry.
after our meeting that, we may think of something, we email the attorney saying, hey, you know what? We need to bring this up at the next meeting. In that way, it can be discussed. As we discuss so much in our meetings and as you were there and thank you for being there at our last meeting, it's an open discussion because we want to get it right. We don't want to change, like I said, change something and it becomes a ripple effect later.
And Commissioner Galaski, if you could go to the second, go 2 more slides down. One, right there. So there has been movement. There is currently a recommendation to at least replace the majority of city commission to a supermajority. That's the recommendation right now. There has been some additional comments about whether to tweak that a little bit more, and so that has been tabled at this time, and that happened at the previous meeting. The same thing about whether it's 1 every 12 months. They're still working on that, but there has been some recommendation on that so far. Next slide, please. And that's really the recommendations that have been presented at this point.
And I would also say, Vito, on the removal, if you all do ultimately plan to recommend a supermajority, I don't think you really need to be concerned about limits on how many can be removed. I think that'll kind of police itself.
Okay?
But again, that's just my opinion.
And all input is welcome. Any
So
further questions?
just with that, there are next steps, unless the chairman wants to cover those.
Our next steps on December 14th, we do have the CRC meeting to be held at the Brownsville Event Center at 5:30, which is open to the public. Continue review of the Article 6 of our charter, consider of our charter provisions recommended, and consider technical cleanup and approve cleanup provisions submitted by the city and our city manager.
And have you all submitted any recommendations on that already?
We actually have one cleanup within the charter as a technical point. It refers to a section that isn't there. So we've identified what section it refers to, and so that's been one of them.
I have not submitted amendments, but I may.
When do you plan to do that?
Next week.
Okay, yeah, because the sooner the better if they're gonna be looking at it. Their meetings tend to run a little long. Okay, Vito, what else?
Anyone?
Is there anything else?
That's
No.
we're up to date.
What about the attendance? Have the members been attending?
Everyone, we've, being that we did change the meetings from Thursdays to Wednesday, we did have one person that has not attended, but because he had a prior commitment for that Wednesday, but everyone has been in attendance at every meeting.
Okay. And How many meetings do you have left? You know?
I think we're going all the way until February.
It's the end of February.
Yeah.
The reason I'm asking is if Wednesday poses a conflict for somebody, then we can consider changing that appointment for somebody that actually will.
But Mayor, I believe it was just for that one meeting, but
Yeah, it was just at one meeting.
Oh, okay.
ever
yeah,
since, everybody's been really
because-
good about attending.
Yeah, meetings were set for Thursdays. There was talk about, you know what, let's move it to Wednesdays, where we only had one member that was, I'm going out of town on business on this Wednesday and will not return till Thursday. So, and that's the only time he's missed. Other than that, everyone has been in attendance. Honorable Mayor, Commissioners, thank you.
Thanks.
Next item, we have presentations. Presentation on data analysis for Boots on the Ground campaign during COVID-19 pandemic.
Honorable Mayor, members of the commission, good evening. Oftentimes, when we're asked to deal with worldwide events such as a pandemic, it requires resources that we normally don't have available at a moment's notice. However, the purpose of this presentation tonight is to share with the community what came together, what occurred, and how it is that we got through the recent COVID-19 pandemic. What you will see tonight is organizations and volunteers coming together, data analysis, and weekly reports that came together by our presenters. Before I go further, I want to acknowledge UT Health as our academic public working group through Dr. Cece Bauer, Dr. Miriam Lee, Dr. Susan Fee Hodge, Dr. Joseph McCormick, Dr. Sala de la Cerda, Tiki Zhang, and Daniela Daly, some of whom are present with us tonight. And they will be telling the story of Brownsville. But before they get started, I need to share something, the collective impact that Brownsville had on the community beyond the city limits. The data that now shows that the work that was done here through our local students, through our local School of Public Health, and through our local employees of our own have had a very impact in the very research of what's done at a national level. And for that reason, I'm asking the citizens and the city commission this evening some time, if you could, so that we could listen to a story about how Brownsville got through the pandemic. But not only did we get through it, we set a high bar. Thank you.
Hello, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners. I am now a doctor de la Cerda. I am a city of Brownsville native. It was this work that allowed me to get my PhD this summer. This and other aims, objectives. So it's my pleasure to present just the fruits of our labor from the collaboration between the City of Brownsville Public Health Department and UT Health Houston, the School of Public Health Brownsville Regional Campus. So we're not in any way related to UTRGV. So I was able to do my PhD here without having to leave home, and that was very exciting. So that, like as Dr. Rodriguez mentioned, that was our group, everybody that worked on the data that we were able to obtain from that data user agreement that you guys agreed on back in 2020, at the beginning of 2020. Do I control it through here? This? Okay. So what is Boots on the Ground? Boots on the Ground was a data-driven, community-led outreach intervention initiated by the City of Brownsville Public Health Department and aided by us, the data that we were able to provide to them. The goal of this intervention was to disseminate COVID-19 educational and test-taking information to City of Brownsville residents, targeting census tracts with highest weekly case counts. Census tracts is a spatial unit that goes smaller than the county level, which is what other public health departments were using. They were using county level data. We had, because of the expertise that we had from Dr. Bauer, who is in Houston. She's a geospatial data analysis guru. So she was able to geocode all of the tests and the cases that we had here in Brownsville, and we were able to aggregate them at a much smaller unit to analyze. So as we see here, all of on the data-driven map, the outlines here, sorry, are all the Cameron County census tracts. The ones that are colored in yellow and orange are the City of Brownsville census tracts. The ones that are in orange are the ones that received the boots on the ground. The yellow ones were not targeted by this intervention. And that's because of the time interval that it lasted, which is, I'll get into it here. The community-led portion was that 8 City of Brownsville staff members went out to these selected census tracts to deliver packets of information that were both in English and in Spanish, which was very important at the time because 85% of our population usually speaks a language other than English, and it's usually Spanish. So that was important, getting the information to the people in their language so that they would understand. So in March 21st, we had our first reported case of COVID-19. In March 24th, the boots on the ground intervention began, but the efforts at this time were mostly blanket events at the public libraries and the event center. After that, in April 17th, after the data use agreement was in place between the two institutions, we were able to produce these census tracts or these maps that you have here. It was a weekly report that we would send to Michelle and Art. And it was representing the case counts in the census tracts. So Michelle used these maps to select the census tracts that they were going to go physically and give information out. From April 21st to June 8th, the boots on the ground was delivered this way. After June 8th, it did switch to news and radio and social media as a means of delivering the information. So this was one of my aims for my dissertation for my PhD. The purpose was here to provide a systematic method to understand and quantify, more importantly, quantify, to be able to say, yes, this had an effect, how well the intervention achieved its goals. That's a little more technical, the analysis that we applied. The outcome here was, the outcome we were looking at was the slope of COVID-19 daily test counts, 2 weeks before and 2 weeks after the census tract received this targeted intervention. So 17 of the 48 census tracts received this targeted intervention. I'm going to focus on the all tracks graph here. So the slope, meaning the trend of the daily test counts here, we have a break in the all tracks. There's 2 slopes here. One represents the trend of the daily test counts before boots on the ground, and the other line represents the trend after the boots on the ground, the daily test counts. So here our results showed that there was a positive significant change that occurred between the pre and the post daily test counts in the census tract that received boots on the ground. So those were our exciting.
So, sorry, this just only shows that people did go out and get tested, not necessarily their positivity, right?
Yeah, I didn't focus on the positivity, just how the information was reaching our targeted people or citizens.
Can
And
I
then,
ask you, without being too specific, what are those 2 tracks that you're specifically looking at?
so the 2 tracks, so there's data criteria that that must be met in order to interpret each census tract individually. And these 2 tracks were the only ones that met that data criteria. But in the all tracks, I was able to aggregate all 17 so that we could be able to interpret our results,
Can you
meeting the
reveal
data.
what part of town it is, or?
So here, the orange tracks, the 2 tracks, I believe it was the little triangle next or square next to the red. That was one of them. And the other one was next to the Cameron Park, which is the gray area within City of Brownsville. That's where they were located. And then just what the fruits of our labor here were also some significant publications. We had 3 significant publications and one, which is the results that I just presented to you. It's pending publication, but it's being pushed out just to put us on the map. And then just some other collaborations that we're doing because of this, as a result of the data user agreement is the COVID-19 vaccine data dashboard and wastewater surveillance of infectious diseases, specifically COVID-19. So we are sending this, we're creating this dashboard and sending it to Michelle and Art again, just so that they have an idea of vaccination completion and where it's being completed and the frequency. And then the other one is wastewater surveillance. The aim for this is to use it in addition to testing, COVID-19 testing, since when at-home testing kind of skewed our frequency or measures for burden. So we want to use the wastewater surveillance to be able to tell additional burden information. Our lab in our campus here, we equipped it to be able to run the analysis that is needed to quantify the viral load in wastewater samples. Right now, we have these are the wastewater treatment facilities that we're analyzing. We're hoping to add Harlingen as well, so we can paint a bigger picture of just the burden of COVID-19 disease. We are also adding flu and monkeypox into the surveillance methods here. And that is it. If you guys have any questions. And that is it. If you guys have any questions.
I'll open it up to questions or comments from the commission.
I just want to thank you for collecting this data and especially your efforts with the boots on the ground during the COVID pandemic when it was at its peak. It was just absolute. I don't think anybody had the answers, but we were all trying to do our best. And I very vaguely remember, and I very strongly remember, not vaguely, I remember that a lot of comments were, thank you for coming by my house, and they came by and they left something. So thank you for your efforts and reaching out to our community and really doing that extra effort for our citizens.
Thank you for allowing us to do it.
I have a comment and a question. Actually, congratulations on your PhD. When did you earn your PhD?
July 6th this year.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
My comment is that 20 years ago, when the University of Texas system developed or passed the RAC, and each city was going to get a different piece. And like most physicians, we felt that the gold prize was the medical school. And so it was a very competitive process, very politically charged, as Joe and Sue will remember. And Brownsville was awarded the School of Public Health. And I remember back then how disappointed I was, thinking that, gee, that's not very exciting. And, you know, the medical school was the apple. And I couldn't have been more wrong, as evidenced by you earning your PhD and the beautiful work that you've done and the collaboration with the City Health Department and Dr. Rodriguez's work as well. So thank you. And thank you for proving me wrong on that. And then my question is, how frequently will we anticipate hearing about the wastewater results as that goes on?
So I believe it's every week, but we're not sending the results to the city. We're sending it to the wastewater facilities because of protocols and all that. But I don't know if there's potential to. They're going to the city as well. Okay.
A little bit more on that project. That's actually a novel project that's countywide. So if you look at the listing of the many wastewater facilities that are part of that innovative project, it's really to get ahead of the curve when cases are occurring in absence of testing, in absence of other things going on. We have found that when we do this as a countywide, it starts to show the patterns and where it is that we can go and provide assistance before it actually equates in a breakout. That's the whole premise of public health of John Snow in England, was that's how this was testing the wells for disease. And actually, you know, couple hundred years later, we're back to testing wells and wastewater to see the origins of disease, but we are very thankful to be part of a network of testing. Tyler, El Paso, ourselves, and I may be forgetting another community, Houston, Laredo, are also part of a larger network of testing where we're trying to become communities that are ahead of the curve to try and reduce the cost of treatment. As you know, the ERs and the emergency rooms, not only treatment centers rather, are being overwhelmed. And by taking a proactive approach, we hope to reduce those costs on those who are uninsured and unable to bear the costs of these diseases.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
I do want to chime in also, and congratulations on your PhD. And Dr. Rodriguez, thank you for your work and leadership in this department in doing this. I do want to recognize Dr. McCormick and Dr. Fisherhawk, who were instrumental in the city's response in helping us strategize and guiding us through all of this. And if it wasn't for y'all too, we certainly would not have tolerated this as, quote, well as we did. But thank y'all, and I do want to recognize y'all for your work. Now, one thing that I do have a question on regarding this is you did an excellent job, obviously, in getting people to go out and test. Did you also use this for vaccinations?
So for vaccinations, we actually have been using one of our facilities, our local libraries. We have found that the libraries is a great mechanism that we're trying to get attendance, but because it requires a physical presence in getting the word out, in essence, with the social, as you saw, we switched to a social media model, and we've really fine-tuned that social media model now to where we're able to bring and convene people to the libraries so that we can use them for testing. Things have changed a lot since then. People are going to their doctors, and you can test at home now. But the vaccines effort themselves, we're continuing those through this month, and we'll be going in a different direction soon. But I think it tells the story of how we got through a very difficult time, which was the COVID-19 pandemic early in March. And one thing that we did, I don't think we mentioned, was we got a testing site in 3 days as a city, nowhere along the border. We're one of the first communities that was also able to test internationally, our sister communities, because this was something that in order for Brownsville to come ahead through COVID, we needed to take some strong partnerships down in South Texas. And we were able to, it wasn't about being first, it was about doing it right the first time.
I agree, and I think there's a bigger story to tell about Brownsville and its COVID response, not just getting people to test and showing how effective the boots on the ground was, but I think overall the way we did respond to it and the way we put this testing program up so quick, all sorts of other things. But Dr. Rodriguez, what I was trying to ask though is, have you thought of using the boots on the ground initiative to also get people to get vaccinations?
We continue to use them. Sir, I just don't have the data.
Okay. Because is there no way to quantify that on the back end because you don't know where they're testing?
Absolutely. You don't know where they're going and getting tested, but we know that it works because we also had another study that we're not talking about tonight. We did a replication of a Harvard study they did on us about trust and communications. And we have found that the boots on the ground and building trust with the community, we were able to get the p-value that we needed for people to go get tested, get vaccinated. And we hope to actually be back and talk more about that community-wide program that's being looked at by communities like LA and other communities that have large Hispanic and Latinx communities. Thank you.
Thanks.
Can I just add, if this isn't separate, I have found the boots on the ground to be really helpful to then tailor the message that you're creating to your public. Because by going out and talking with people and listening to their stories, that really helped inform how I need to craft a message to get them to go get tested, to rely on these things, like, and how to dispel some of the myths that they were listening to. Because without hearing their stories, I wouldn't have known what myths they were listening to.
Yes, Commissioner Galansky, if I can add, communications department has been like cousins to us because we've had to come back and craft the message depending on what we hear from our citizens. And sometimes we think we need to navigate in a certain direction and they come back and we course correct. So there's a lot of pivots in our journey, But I want to say that they're due to the fact because boots on the ground really connects back to the local citizen in a way that we're listening to them on a rather frequent basis and understanding. We found through Facebook that a lot of people use Facebook as their primary engine for communication in certain parts of town. So for that reason, we use those channels now to communicate prevention and testing sites and certain things like that. Sometimes it's social media, sometimes it's the regular radio and TV. And, you know, with Facebook Live and those other forms of communication that exist now, we're actually in public health, we're actually one of the public health departments that is using those tools more aggressively than other areas. And we're expanding those tools into other divisions such as the animal shelter and in wellness. And we're applying what we started through COVID in other areas of our profession that originally we didn't intend to, but on the outcome side, we're seeing that it's leading to some really positive outcomes. Thank you.
Shout out to the public health team because they really do go out and get in the community and establish relationships. There's like so many people who know Jesse, the beekeeper, and they have faith in him because they've had positive experiences and all the different members of the public health team.
There, and I want to publicly acknowledge our team from Michelle Jones to many other individuals that have different specialties and crafts within their professional careers. And each one comes to the table and gives us that feedback. And I think that's how we have been so successful and high caliber because we've got some truly great people in the city. Thank you.
And I would just add that the COVID test site that we put up in 3 days probably took every single department of the city to get that going. So thank you to all the city employees because they really made that happen.
Thank you.
Next item, we have consent agenda items.
Do we have any motions?
Move to approve.
We have a motion. Is there
Second.
a motion and a second? Any discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Next item, we have public hearings. Public hearing number 1, public hearing in action on first reading of ordinance number 2022-1673-A of the City of Brownsville, Texas, to update the master fee schedule of the City of Brownsville and dealing with related matters.
Good afternoon, Honorable Mayor and Commissioners. My name is Miguel Cavazos, Budget Officer for the City of Brownsville, and I will be presenting the master fee proposed update with the help of the other departments. So the fees for services that are proposing an update is EMS, City Secretary, Public Library, Parks, Public Transit, Planning and Zoning, Engineering and Public Works, and Traffic. Just a quick summary, EMS ambulance fees have not been revised since 2010, and the current fees are substantially below usual, customary, and reasonable fees for the region. The Fire Department will elaborate more on the next slide. City Secretary is amending the ordinance to reflect the current state law to the TABC fee schedule. Public Library is proposing to increase room availability. Southmost Library meeting room will now be available. Parks has proposed to increase the rate of selected development process applications to recapture supplementary labor time costs invested. Public Transit has proposed to increase the rates due to raising demand and cost of maintenance. The Planning and Redevelopment Department has proposed to increase the rate of selected development process applications to recapture supplementary labor time costs invested. Engineering and Public Works are proposing an increase to the rates due to an increase in cost of materials and supplies. They're also proposing an increase for lost and damaged traffic control equipments to reflect the market value. Traffic is modifying the parking fees aligned with the new parking meters, as well as an increase the fees on rental equipment based on the replacement costs. I will now turn it over to Fire.
Good evening, Mayor, Commission.